Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Friday, the 22nd of May, 2020. How are you doing? It is Friday. It's finally Friday. For those of you who still actually enjoy that yonder what a weekend is, get ready because it's here. It's finally here. I enjoy the weekends because I get to spend them with the wife. So this morning I've got Eric Murphy, the awesome Eric Murphy from Talk Heathen. Good morning, Eric. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing all right, man. Just stretching the sleep out.
Getting ready for the day, huh?
Yeah, it's nice to see y'all and hang out with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me again and for being my last minute surprise co-host. Appreciate it. Yeah. And we also have Kenneth Leonard. Sorry, Kenneth. How you doing? I can't
Doing
see
good.
you. You're all tiny there, brother. Yeah. Kenneth Leonard, he is a law nerd, ex-evangelical kind of person, and he's a lawyer, an actual real lawyer.
There we go. Yeah. I always say reformed because I used to do legal practice. Now I work in the government sector, but still doing law stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. And well, awesome for coming on the show. It was Ethan who threw you to the wolves, I believe.
Yeah. Ethan's. I mean, God, Ethan's the best, man. Yeah, I've been doing debates on his channel, sort of getting more into that space. My last one was just the other day with Dean Meadows.
Right.
Yeah. Eric, I watched his conversation with you about the Kalam ahead of that, and it was extremely helpful. So,
oh, nice. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Dean's a sweet guy. I really enjoy him. He's definitely an honest dude. So that's awesome, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, Eric. Now, Eric is the one of the co-hosts of Talk Here. You know, did you see my little commercial I made yesterday?
Yeah.
For the show. Often I like brainstorm these ideas and, sometimes I remember them and sometimes one of the things I was going to do is I was going to Eric is going to be on the show. It's just amazing. And when Eric is here, V is often not far behind and she'll be on the show tomorrow for Saturday, Sci-Fi Saturday, and I totally spaced it. I was going to make that awesome commercial.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
So when I told them I was coming on, they're like, yeah, I'm going on them there to the next day. So
cool. Yeah, Sci-Fi Saturday with Leanne Lord. They're going to be here. So you have changed your situation. I know. Kenneth is our guest today, but but Eric hasn't been here in a while, and some circumstances have changed. So before we dive into the funds that is Kenneth, I just want to catch up on Eric. You've kind of started doing these shows where you're streaming live during lunch. You want to fill us in?
Absolutely. So it's funny, but I've had all of these plans to do all of these different things, and it finally took kind of a confluence of events for it to kick in. And so now I'm ready. I'm firing on all cylinders, and I am putting out content like a madman. So every day of the work week, Monday through Friday, I'm on Facebook Live on Eric. I believe it's Eric the Heathen, facebook.com/Eric the Heathen. And just kind of we're spending our lunch breaks together, hanging out, having a good time, enjoying just each other's company and catching up and getting to see friends and family. And it's nice. It's just very intimate and fun, and everybody's welcome to join. From there, I was telling you before we started that people were asking if I'd be up for setting up kind of like a VIP meet and greet situation with people. And I was like, okay, let me try that. And I created an event with 3 tickets. And as soon as I announced it, all 3 just gone. Damn. And so now I don't know what to do. I'm excited to meet them today. And I don't know how I'm going to format it in the future, but today is going to be the big test. So we'll see. But other than that, on my YouTube channel, I'm doing a ton, man. I started a new section of the show. I put out the first episode 2 days ago with Jenna Belk. It's called Murphy's Law.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I missed that somehow. I've been, in my own world. I missed it. Yeah, Murphy's Law. Okay, I'll have to check that out. She'll some links.
For college shows, if something can go wrong, it will.
Oh,
and so we sit with hosts of the various call-in shows and go over maybe what went wrong or what went right, or maybe just a peek under the hood about, okay, hey, this person called in about 20 things and they were only able to get to 3, but here's a little bit more info, or here's a little bit more of what we're seeing as hosts, and kind of opening that and sharing it out. And it's nice. It's been just very well received. On top of that, I'm meeting with a Christian apologist tonight on my channel. So if people are up late, 6 p.m. Central, I'm going to be on with the tentative atheist. I believe his name is Randolph. I need to.
I don't think I've heard of him.
Yeah, he is Randall Rouser. He's a PhD, just really smart dude. He's been really nice in conversation. I'm really excited. We're going to talk about the moral argument for the existence of God tonight. So just all kinds of
yeah, you're just a madman creating content. That's good. You know, I kind of, as somebody who churns out a lot of content on a regular basis, I understand the work that goes into it. You know, it's just a ton.
And Twitch streaming on Saturdays.
And Twitch streaming. Yes.
And Talk Heathen on Sundays.
So no rest for the wicked? Is that
no. But,
well, awesome. That's good. It's keeping you busy and out of trouble, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have time to do jack shit anymore, but it's a dream come true and I'm having fun. So pretty stoked about that. But I'm excited to meet Kenneth.
That's true.
Gosh, yeah, you content creator guys are maniacs. I'm fortunate that Ethan's doing all the legwork and then just, you know, brings people on to do the fun part.
He's an animal.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it, because I see just with Ethan the amount of work that goes into creating an actual platform. It's crazy. Yeah,
it takes a lot of work. How long have you been working with Ethan? You debate over on his channel, right?
Yeah, debate and have, you know, just discussions with theists. It began with he had a debate with a guy, Joel Sedekase, and I was looking for people in the Chicago area to get connected with. That's where I am. That's where Ethan is, and I found his channel. I watched his discussion with Joel, and it didn't go super great for Ethan. Ethan would be even more, you know, he's like, I got crushed, which he didn't. But it was, I reached out to him and I was saying, no, I don't know how familiar you are with the arguments that this guy is making, or, you know, with the sort of precept apologists in general. But if you'd like to talk about it and flesh some things out, let's connect. And within like a week, he put me up on his channel talking to another theist, and we actually did some Kalam stuff in that talk. But yeah, so it's been a couple months. Yeah.
Goodness. Okay. Well, I want to take a moment real quick and say hello to everyone in the chat. We've got a lot of people showing up this morning early, and you know, I gotta say that happens with Eric. Yeah, when Eric comes on the show, we get this over. You know, it really helps our numbers, I've got to say. So we've got a lot of people in the chat. I want to say, first of all, I got to say all right, now let me get this right. I got to do this right. They were 40 Danish crowns. I got that right. That was a super chat right at the very top of the show, before the show even started, by the Blazing Wizard Pope. He hooked us up with 40 Danish crowns. I got that right. I think I got that right. Before the show. Thank you very much. Bought a cup of coffee, he said. Thank you. And we just got another super chat from, let me see here, your friendly neighborhood atheist, Ethan.
Hey.
Ethan. Yeah, throw us two whole dollars. Good morning, Ethan. Thank you. It's awesome. Now, you don't have your own YouTube channel or anything like that?
No, I'm like feeling the pull, and I think it may only be a matter of time. Yeah. You
gotta watch Ethan. He'll suck you into that, and he's here in the chat.
It's a weird thing, because the thing that I you know, kind of find myself banging my head against the wall with is just the arguments. And I know Eric deals with this like on a regular basis. Just points that have been refuted 10,000 times, just that won't die. It's like, you know, we're fighting a hydra, and so I my deal is I question, how effective I could be in trying to articulate or communicate ideas to primarily Christians from a slightly different perspective, because I was so deep into Christianity for most of my life. So it's trying to speak to people in a way where we find common ground, and I want to be very clear in not misrepresenting their positions, but then being like, so in light of this being your position, maybe let's talk about the problems here.
Yeah.
But in more of like a gentle yet firm way. So
Kenneth, that's
yeah.
awesome, man. Dude, you got to do that more.
It's like, there's this, I came up with this tagline that I don't hate them. I just think that they're wrong. You could use that if you want to, Eric.
Yeah.
So,
Write that one down. That was good.
You don't hate them.
yeah, man. It's I get frustrated with voices that I see out there, content creators that I see out there, where there's sort of a condescension. There's this idea that people in the theist world are dumb, and I think that that's a huge mistake. And I think that I just want to have, the goal is just have better and better conversations, and bring people with different views together.
That's wonderful, man. That's wonderful. Man. So I mean, I got to tell you, just jumping into it is the hardest part. Putting yourself out there, especially at the beginning, because you're going to make the vast majority of your mistakes at the beginning. And don't get me wrong, you're going to continue to make mistakes for as long as you do this, but
sure,
a lot of them in volume right at the beginning. But if you stick to it, you develop the skill set that is so difficult for people, because how often are we in that situation? But you put yourself out there, man. It's awesome.
Right.
On top of that, you're talking about your approach. You do have a unique experience, and just by virtue of you being you, people will listen because you are you. I mean, there are people who look at my face and go, I just want to punch it. I don't like it. I don't like the voice. I don't like the nothing. I don't like the hair. Just screw that guy, and they're off. Fine, absolutely fine. That's why we need enough people in the movement. That's why we need enough voices that people will find those that they resonate with.
Yeah.
If they resonate with you, then you're doing awesome, man.
And I completely agree. And I think that there's the thing that I've been focusing on a lot in the last few weeks is there's sort of a barrier to entry, just because of negative social stigmas attached to non-believers. And that's a huge thing that I think is it was the thing that kept me from diving into the pool for a long time. My background was, so I was in the Army, and I got out and was going to college, and I became the president of the Secular Student Alliance at my undergrad at San Diego State University. And the SSA is amazing. But then when I went to law school, I sort of put activism with anything related to religion on the back burner, because I was concerned that it would have a negative effect on me career-wise. I was worried that atheism was essentially too radioactive of a topic, and over time, that's just, it felt very, I don't know. I was just not satisfied staying out of the game. So when Ethan gave me the opportunity to sort of jump back in, I was thinking about it, and I just think that there's a real cost to people sort of staying on the bench, so to speak, and not engaging because they're worried about negative social stigmas or people not understanding what they're doing. So that's the other thing that I think really needs to be prominently out there. So, yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, would you give us a little history about were you a theist when you were young, how you became an atheist?
Yeah. So
now I got to warn you though, if Neil, pardon me, you're familiar with Neil, Eric? The 604
I've
atheist?
heard of him, I think.
If Neil here's you going too long about your coming out story or your deconversion story, he'll burst through my wall like the Kool-Aid man, and he'll be like, "That's my territory." So if you'll give us just like a really kind of narrow, short, because like I say, he'll come out of nowhere. You watch.
I hope. Maybe we could say his name 3 times. I hope. He's one of the sweetest human beings.
He's wonderful, isn't
Oh
he?
my gosh. I
Yeah.
love
So
him.
he'd probably love to have you on his channel to give your deconversion story. But if you don't mind, tell us
Sure.
a quick notes.
The Cliff Notes, just the facts version. Sure.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Southern California. The church that I was in was started by guys who were faculty members at what used to be Christian Heritage College, now San Diego Christian College. And there was this very like academic approach to Bible study in that church, and I was super into it. So I, was saved at like 5 years old in a program that's called Awanas. I don't know, some of your viewers might have heard of Awanas, but so super Christian all through my developing years there, and my family was even very active in the Southern California super far right Christian homeschooling movement that was really taking off in the 90s. And when I went into the Army, I was still a believer. And I don't know if I've even told Ethan this. So when I was in the Army, I had 2 really bad parachuting accidents. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and after my second, the second one, I had a total parachute malfunction, ended up with a traumatic brain injury, and had a lot of time to sit and think about what was going on with my life, to evaluate my beliefs. And right around this time, my church was doing one of these like read through the whole Bible in 8 weeks programs. And I was like, this is great. I got all this time. I'm going to just devour some scripture. God's going to sort this out and help me figure out what I need to do with my life, because the Army was looking like it wasn't going to pan out for me. So I started reading through the Bible cover to cover, and came out of that with a lot of questions. And what I tell people is that my pathway to atheism began with Bible study. And what I find is that most religious believers never study their Bibles. They engage in Bible worship, not Bible study. And when I finished my Genesis to Revelation romp there, I started writing down questions, and I started it again. And I was like, I feel like I don't understand that what I read doesn't mesh with my conception of like the character of God as being this loving guy that I have a relationship with. So I started rereading and really getting in there. And after about 2 years, I was a theist. And then after about another year, I was an atheist. I just found too many problems in my own faith, and started to question whether faith was a legitimate way of approaching any questions that I may have about reality in the universe in my life. And once I let go of Christianity, it was a very short trip to being like, I don't know if any of these guys have it figured out. I think we might be totally unsupervised as a species. We got to figure some stuff out. So
we need an adult.
Yeah. So that was it. So
interesting. Well, real quick, I want to say thank you to Cindy Plaza for showing her support. 25 euros to the channel. I can say euros. I know what those are. I have to learn the rest. But yeah, thank you very much, Cindy. That's wonderful. I appreciate it. She was on the show last week, and she was a lot of fun with Marie Delafont. You know Marie?
Oh, I love Marie.
Yeah, Marie's our Wednesday co-host on the regular. She has been our Wednesday co-host.
Ooh,
yeah.
You scored.
Oh yeah, she's a lot of fun.
Marie's amazing.
She's been a hoot so far. And she's got this perspective. From where I sit, there's this view, I have a view of the world, because of who I am and what all this, but I don't really agree with all of that. And it's refreshing to be with somebody else who agrees with me. She and I agree on a lot of, what, this country sucks, kind of. We go for the X, Y, and Z reason, obviously, but we go off on that kind of thing. So yeah, she's been a world of fun so far. Have you met Leanne Lord, Eric, or heard of her?
Sounds familiar.
She is a comedian and an actress. She has been on doing stand-up since the mid-90s. She's been on all kinds of shows, John Fuselang's show and stuff like that. And she is my Sci-Fi Saturday co-host.
Nice,
I
man.
know. She is a total and complete sci-fi nerd. Let me do this. She is a total and complete. I mean, she wears a necklace that is the Star Trek logo, the little communicator thing. She's got a necklace that's got that. She's got the mask and it's got a Star Trek logo. I mean, she is just, I'm so lucky to have that woman as a guest host. So yeah, you ought to come back. Or I was going to say Cindy was here last week, and I'd like to get her again with Marie, because I don't think we were kind of done talking. There was a lot of interesting subjects they had going on. We were just kind of had the end of the day at that one. But back to Kenneth. So it was the Bible, the study of the Bible, which kind of nudged you towards atheism.
Well, toward rejecting Christianity for sure. I was talking to a Christian friend the other day, and I was saying that the thing that got me going was my church was a Calvinist church. They taught that salvation was predestined and preordained, and that faith is purely a gift from God. That sinners are incapable of reaching out to God on their own because we're so sinny all the time. And I was like, well, if God knows ahead of time who's going to be saved and who's not, why keep creating people who are just going to get sort of thrown in the bad place there? Why not just keep creating people why not just keep creating saved people? And that was sort of the thread that I started to tug at. And yeah, before long, the whole sweater had unraveled. And that conversation I've had with a bunch of theists, and they'll say, well, we've got to have free will. And I'm saying, well, would it have been possible for God to create a place where there was no suffering, where there was nobody that was going to be doomed? And they're like, well, I don't think so. I think you've got to have free will so we can know how much God loves us, the saved ones. And I was like, well, let's put that on the table for a second. But is there free will in heaven?
Oh no.
Well, no.
Oh no.
And people, I'll start having this conversation of like, well, so there is a place that God could create where his creations could have like this perfect communion and relationship with him, where there's no suffering and everyone's just kind of chilling and hanging out. So why not just start there? And that leads to other conversations. But yeah, it's this kind of thing was what led me to start, letting go of Christianity. Yeah.
Understood. Well, if I usually have these standard questions that I go through. So you go from being a theist to being a non-theist or atheist or an agnostic, depending on whose camp you're in. I don't want to start that.
Sure.
But and then there's something that makes you go from being that to being against, to being an antitheist, to being an activist against that which you came from. Was there a specific catalyst?
I was super hardcore as Mr. Anti-theist guy for a couple of years there when I was in college, because I think that by virtue of being in a university and getting an education really for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd been lied to. I felt like, and I think that the problem with my approach at that time was that I was attributing my miseducation to a sort of malice on the part of the people who had told me all these things. It was like, they had, my parents, my pastors and stuff. These are the adults I looked up to, I trusted, and they told me these things that turned out not to be true. And I was mad about it. But, at this stage in the game, it's more like, well, they were telling me what they thought was right. So I can't really be mad at them. They were doing their best. So now we got to deal with sort of the foundational problems there, rather than just get mad at the people who were just trying to save me. But yeah, I mean, I think that the anti-religion, fresh out of theism, angry period seems to be a very, very common thing. Yeah.
And, oddly enough, it seems, and I could be wrong, but it seems a little bit, in some people, it's the harder the religion was on them, the harder they're going to be on it when they leave it.
What's weird about that is I agree with you completely. I get asked by theists all the time, like, who hurt you? Like, what was the bad experience that you had that made you leave? And it's like,
how's your relationship with your dad?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Are you angry at your earthly father, so it's making you
right,
angry at your heavenly father?
right, right. And it's like,
wow, Eric. Yeah.
I was, you know, I found it to be fairly traumatic leaving Christianity. Because I mean, when you go from really believing and you know, being fully convinced that you have a relationship with somebody, and then you're like, I don't know if that person ever existed, you know, and then to be like, I don't think that person, you know, and as you keep going down the chain to being like, you know, this was all a mistake, you know, it felt to me almost like a death in the family. And I know everybody's experience is different, but yeah, I find the sort of the projecting of the, like, you know, something bad must have happened to you, therefore you're an atheist now, because we know how atheists are. I find that to be extremely frustrating, because it's just like, no, man, I read the book.
Hey, brother, Kenneth, if you don't mind, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Can you watch your microphone?
Yes.
Your sweater is killing us.
I'm dying from the. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, just letting you know. It was mentioned earlier, and I missed it. I'm a bad person. Real quick though, we do have a question for you from the chat. How deep were you in? Were you a young Earth creationist kind of person?
When I was in the Army, I went to the Smithsonian and I debated the staff at the Smithsonian in the dinosaur exhibit. And I was like, you guys, why aren't you teaching the controversy here? Why aren't both sides presented? And I was talking, you know, to my friends, and I was like, this is bogus. Because when I was growing up, I've said this on Ethan's channel, my first quote unquote science classes were actually at the Institute for Creation Research in San Diego. When I was a kid, I attended Ken Ham talks. I you know, Henry Morris, you know, Dwayne Gish. These are all guys that I had personal interactions with. I had all the Kent Hovind VHSs, man. That was, you know, it was fire. Wow. And when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, these secular guys with their science, you know, they're not doing it right because they don't have the book that we have that tells us all the answers ahead of time.
You really drank the Kool-Aid then.
Oh, dude, I was fully immersed in it, utterly convinced of yeah.
Goodness.
To the point of arrogance. Yeah. The Smithsonian thing is easily top 5 cringiest moments of my entire life.
And sharing it is amazing. I love that you're only sharing that, dude.
It was so bad.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, I think that that's something I've seen a lot of, that I want to change, and help me change this, Kenneth. Help me change this. I like this. These people that are, oh well, I was never really that into it. I didn't, you know. And you back up a little bit, and they're speaking in tongues, you know, 5
yeah.
You know, rolling in the aisles, and it's like, no, you know what? We came from that place, and we admitted at some point, hey, I could be wrong. We looked into it and we changed our views, and that is amazing. I mean, what a Herculean effort of just fortitude, dude.
Well, it's cheers. The thing. Thank you. I think that it's interesting because that moment that you're just describing of maybe I could be wrong is a moment of humility and of honesty. And I think that when I see atheists, and when I see how theists talk about atheists, there's often this perception of arrogance, and I think that's extremely detrimental to good conversations between atheists and theists. I think that you know, that's critical to break down, to be like, no, man, I'm not smarter than you. I'm not better than you. I don't have access to any information that you don't have access to. I'm just trying to make the most honest assessment of the information that we both have, you know, in front of us. So let's talk about why I'm seeing it this way and you're seeing it in this other way, and, you know, the role that faith plays in all of that. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you need to start a channel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or at least team up with Ethan and let Ethan help you get comfortable until you're ready to start a channel. I was one of those. I didn't know anybody. I started the channel and there was 0 watchers. That's hard. That's a tough row to hoe. Other people who get on with us and get a little following going before you fire up your thing, that's the best way to go, man. And but you got something to say, and I'm sure people would love to hear it. They love hearing it in the chat here.
Well, the community is incredible.
They're wonderful.
And it's been great getting reminded of that since getting active on Ethan's channel. It's just, what an incredible group of people. Getting to meet and talk to people like Cindy, Ethan, Puck, and all the theists that have engaged. I mean, it's just it's been great. Yes. I don't know why I didn't do it years ago. Getting back into it.
You know, if I can ask real quick, whenever you made the switch from theism to atheism, that journey you were on, how did your family react?
Not awesome.
So, are they deep into the Kool-Aid too, or were they? If we will use that expression.
Yeah. So my dad passed away a few years ago, but mom is very much still a faithful believer, and I think she didn't fully understand how far I'd swung away from the faith until there was a debate that I did years ago at San Diego State. And when this debate was going to be happening, I reached out to a friend of mine who's a philosophy professor at San Diego Christian College. And I told him what was going to be happening with the debate. And I said, maybe if you or your class would want to come check it out, it could be food for conversation. And so the debate day comes. I'm there. We're like 2 minutes to go time, and we're in this lecture hall at my school. And in walks my mom and my former pastor and all of the church elders. And it's this like, and they walk down and they sit in the front row. So, and that debate topic was specifically, is the God of Christianity real? Which is like, that debate never happens. So it was kind of an interesting and cool thing. So, but I was very much in my mad atheist phase there, and was like,
I'd have been
hardcore
pissed.
And my mom sat there and sobbed the entire time. And my pastor, his face was like a cherry tomato, and he was visibly trembling. He was so angry. And it's never been quite the same since then. And as I've mellowed, I think that increasing opportunities there for bridge building are there. But I think it's a hard thing for Christian parents. I mean, if you sincerely believe that your kid is an apostate who may never have been a true believer in the first place, that there's some confusion happening, there's some spiritual warfare happening, they could be on the fast track to hell. I think it's easy for atheists to dismiss those parents and be like, oh, well, they're just bigots. They just, have closed minds. But if you really believe that your kid is their soul is at risk, it makes sense to me that parent would not know what to do. And when presented with arguments, when they try to talk to you, and for a couple of years there, she would come in with an argument for God, and I would just like smash it. It would just be like, no, that's bullshit, and here's why, and let's talk about the logic of this. I wasn't seeing where she was coming from. And so, I mean, I think meeting people where they're at is real important. It's one of the reasons why Talk Heathen is a great show.
People where, hold on.
Yeah. This guy's so quotable, right? We may have to keep him. We've got a cage.
Dude, right
over there.
Yeah.
We can just bring him out for the show. Dance, monkey, dance.
Yeah. So
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
Good.
I've seen Eric's show once or twice. So yeah.
Happy that it helps.
If I can jump in real quick, I want to say that, a lot of people, and I mean, no slight towards the atheist experience or the Austin, anybody down there, but most people, I believe, think of the atheist experience first. That's where their mind goes. Yes. And I get it, because they were there first, they're bigger, but then, Talk Heathen is also a big E, and they're good, and Eric is good. But my first experience really, when I kind of ducked my head into this, was I bumped into Eric. So when I think of those That's who I think of as the big Austin channel is Talk Heathen.
Oh, that's weird.
I know. I know. I'm sure it probably, but that's the truth. Yeah, that's how I see it. Eric and the Talk Heathen show are the big Austin show, and the other show is got that Matt guy.
You know, the interesting thing is I still view the Atheist Experience as the big sister show.
Oh yeah,
the flagship.
A kid. Yes.
You know, it's the, but no, I know, but you're throwing me off, man.
Yeah, it's just how it is, dude. You're
weird. That is so weird.
You're a celebrity.
Happy, excited, but so weird.
Yeah.
But yay.
You're becoming. I say becoming. You are a celebrity in the atheist community. I don't know if you were aware of that or not.
That is when this community, when we grow this community, that'll be awesome. But it's a small niche right now.
It really is.
So much work to do.
That's true.
See, so much work to do.
Sassy Heathen says she started off watching Talk Heathen with Jamie and Eric before AXP2. So see,
hey,
a lot of people who get into this business who want to do that yonder, what we're doing now, their notion is, I want to be one of the new 4 horsemen. I want to be a 4 horseman. I want, that's, I hear that. I've heard that often. Everybody wants to be it would be a lie if I said I didn't want to see Hitchens, Dawkins, Chris Mallard, and Daniel. I would love that, but that's just never going to happen. Now we make a name for ourselves in this world that we have. There's never going to be, there might be others, but that group is taken. They're never going to be, there's going to be similar. They might adjust and change, but it's just, anyway, people like you are building your own name. You don't have to be a 4 horseman. You're going to be the Eric Murphy. The Eric Murphy.
Yeah. That's
what
actually really interesting.
The Derek Unit. Sorry, that's from the Star Trek, the first movie, motion picture. Sorry.
That's all good. Sorry, man. I V's the Trekkie.
No, I understand. I respect it. Yeah. So you see what I mean, though.
They are browbeating me into watching Star Trek. It's happening.
Yeah.
I'm watching, but there's a lot to watch. But that said, that actually is exactly what Jamie told me, right? When we were starting, as he and I were having that conversation, I told him I want to be the 5th horseman. I want to be the next one.
See?
And that's still, in a way, that's still my goal trajectory. But Jamie, I was telling him, I said, I want to be the next Hitchens. And he said, no, you don't. And I was like, well, yeah, I do. And he said, no, you're not going to be the second Hitchens. You're not going to be the second Harris. You're not going to be the second Dawkins. You're going to be the first Eric Murphy.
Who said
That's exactly what he said. Jamie Boone.
Oh, yeah. Air hug to Jamie. He's so right. Knuckle bump. Because
he said that back in 2017. When
even if you don't quite make the mark to be that fifth horseman in other people's minds, you'll build your own Eric Murphy in everybody's
damn straight. But I'm gonna die trying.
Oh hell yeah! It's a noble goal, right?
I will be damned if I don't get there. I'm working on it, my friend.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think that's kind of one of the things we all go into this for is for Chris Hitchens was my first one. Watching him, I mean, Jerry Falwell had just died, and Chris Hitchens was getting interviewed by Anderson Cooper, and they're like, an atheist is going to be on the show talking about Jerry Falwell's death. I'm like, really? That guy's going to hell. He's going to hell now. And he came on the show, and he's talking about Jerry Falwell, who I didn't like anyway. And he's like, that guy should be on the street corner selling pencils from a cup. That was I found my spirit animal right there with Chris Hitchens. But Chris Hitchens had a specific acerbic kind of nature about him, and you are not that. You're not that. No. You're nice and cuddly, and fuzzy, and sweet. Yeah. And Chris Hitchens, we can give a lot of words to describe Chris Hitchens. Sweet probably is not one of the.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But he always had his, what was it, whiskey or bourbon? Scotch.
Yeah, he was a Johnny Walker guy. He said he shared the favorite beverage with all the great dictators of the Middle East. In the Falwell interview, I liked that he said that if Falwell would have been given an enema, he could have been buried in a matchbox.
A matchbox.
Amazing.
It's with Hitchens. It was an interesting thing because that was he was instrumental to me becoming an atheist, but not in a traditional way. I was at my campus bookstore. I was a theist teetering on the brink of atheism, but I wasn't aware of what any of the resources were that were out there. And, you know, no YouTube channels, anything. I was just sort of wrestling with it on my own. And I was in the campus bookstore, and on a clearance shelf was his book, Letters to a Young Contrarian. And I picked it up and I was reading it on campus, and a stranger was walking by and said, "Oh, are you an atheist?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "You like Christopher Hitchens?" And I was like, "I guess I do. This is a good book." And she's like, "You should come to the Secular Student Alliance." And that was how it happened.
The beginning of the end.
I'd never heard of God Is Not Great. I didn't know anything. I was just a guy who was like, some stuff doesn't make sense to me. and got caught by a good book title and picked up a $2 book off the clearance rack. Isn't it funny how things can happen?
That's awesome.
It really is. Well, you know, you'd be amazed at how many people have been influenced by his work alone. If you go out there, how many people have been influenced by Dawkins or Sam Harris or any one of those people? That's just, it's amazing that I had an experience. You had, you know, his word got out there to YouTube. I have to say, it was one of the things that I used whenever I first moved over to being an activist as an atheist. I would run to Chris Hitchens. I'd be like, you know, I'd go watch his debates. Oh yeah, watching his debates against the Catholic cardinals. Oh, man, him and Stephen Fry just thrashed these people publicly. I'm like, oh, please stop. It's hurting.
I got the one.
It was rough.
That's funny. And again, that just kind of underscores that whole "it takes all types" approach. Mm-hmm. You know, for as angry and as brash as that was, some people need that. Yeah. For me, it was Cognitive Dissonance, the podcast. They just launched, and if you haven't heard Cog Diss, it's like car talk for atheists.
Really?
Kenneth, you're from Southern California. You remember car talk?
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah,
click and clap or something, right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, right. It's car talk for atheists. It's amazing.
Really, I have to check that out.
And it's funny and it's irreverent and it is just goofy, and that is what helped me stop being an apatheist and move into an activist atheist. So yeah, you get these angry approaches, you get kind-hearted, you got your Anthony Magnaboscos.
I enjoy him, by the way.
Me too. He's a really sweet dude.
Yeah. Well, really nice guy. I've seen a couple of his videos with Objectively Dan, where he met Objectively Dan. Are you familiar with that story?
Yes. Yeah. Well, go ahead and tell it.
No, you please, you go ahead. You know it better than I do, really.
Let's see. Objectively Dan Earls was in youth ministry actually at his university when Anthony Magnabosco went to the university to practice street epistemology. And so we meet Dan as a Christian and they interact, and it's this wonderful conversation, and then they follow up. And over that time, Dan took it to heart and really thought about it. And you have this amazing story of street epistemology working right there in front of your eyes. Mm-hmm. And so when I was starting to get involved at the ACA, Anthony was coming up, and then he started bringing Dan. Or Dan would come down, actually. Anthony would come up. And I just adored Dan. He's just this super tall, incredibly kind teddy bear of a human that you just want to hug. And every time he'd walk in the door, I go, "Dad!" and I'd get up and I just give him this giant hug. And now he's a host of Truth Wanted every Friday with the ACA. And just it just makes me smile every time he gets brought up and every time that story ges brought up. It's wonderful.
That is so amazing. Cool. You know, I invited I always mess his name up. Magnabosco.
Anthony Magnabosco?
Anthony, I invited him to the show, and this is whenever I very first started, and he declined because he's like, "Well, I'm not really into that so much. I'm into street epistemology." I didn't know what the guy was talking about. Recently, I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't understand. Recently, I saw his videos with Objectively Dan, and I get it. Oh, and it was just wonderful watching him talk to Dan and asking, I'd have been like, that's a bunch of shit. Why do you believe that? That's a bunch, but Anthony is just, oh, well, that's very interesting. Now, I don't mean to be contrary, but he didn't use those words. That's my text would come out. He's like, but why do you believe this? And and man, he's just talking Dan. And I've only been through the first one so far, but I was totally impressed. Blew me away.
I mean, the last episode of Talk Heathen, I wasn't on, but Anthony was on with V. And watching, it felt like a masterclass in street epistemology. Just watching that approach. I mean, it was just spot on.
He's been great also about what Eric was talking about earlier of refining his approach over time and being very public about constantly wanting to just do better and recognizing where the room for improvement is and being receptive to criticism from YouTube commenters and stuff. I mean, he takes it all very seriously and there's no ego in the approach, which is so powerful.
Do you know how long he's been doing it and what got him into doing it? I need to get him on the show, obviously.
Absolutely. So I know that it was Peter Boghossian's book, A Manual for Creating Atheists, that coined the term street epistemology. Okay. And after the fact, it turns out Peter Boghossian's kind of problematic in some places. He's got some controversial views that have not always resonated throughout the atheist community. Now, you might agree with him, you might disagree with him, but you can't disagree that there's controversy there. Okay. And he's pretty aggressive. That said, coming from such an aggressive person in that book and coining the term street epistemology, Anthony picks that up and just becomes the face of it. And it took on this life of its own. I don't know how long Anthony was an atheist beforehand or anything like that, but I do know that street epistemology approach was started with A Manual for Creating Atheists.
Interesting. I've got a comment here from the chat for you, Eric. It's from Grumpy Old Dude, Ed. I don't know if you're familiar with his channel. He's got a new channel he's developing, and he says, I'm sorry?
Oh, I said, hey, Grumpy Old Dude.
Oh, yep. He says that you are one of the people that inspired him to start his channel.
Yay! All right, that's right. We need more voices. Let's do it.
And to be honest, I mean, I've said that yours was the first one I watched. But really, it was kind of yours and the Atheist Experience and a couple of other channels that influenced the design of my channel. How I like my background and how I wanted it to look like more like a talk show, like your talk show. Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely influential in the direction.
Thank you.
If I could, and now that you guys had to, because at first you guys were all studio, and now because of the cooties, you've had to move it in. And I remember the first time I had you on your show, I was like, I don't suppose you'd ever have somebody in remotely, and you're like, no, we don't do that.
No, we don't.
And I'm like, oh damn! And then they went, and then I had to go doing your own remote, and I thought, now the challenge is. I got to see you guys actually move in whenever you first started, and we're working from home, remoting into the thing.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was wild.
Your techs and engineers did a great job doing that. They really did.
Absolutely. This is myself and my roommate, Holy Kool-Aid, but making it work. Let me tell you, I was on Secular Sexuality last night, and about 8 or 9 hours before the show, they popped me into a group conversation, and I hop in there, and there were at least 7 techs, at least 7 technical people working behind the scenes to make it happen. Yeah. And they were working behind the scenes for hours ahead of time, and they were there for hours afterward. Taking the audio, cleaning it up, putting it up as a podcast, making sure that all the metadata and tags are there, taking the time and doing clipping. There's somebody who's watching the shows and doing live clipping and tagging, the times to clip things so that they can be released throughout the week. I mean, it is a production.
Yeah. I've seen a photograph. There was like 6 or 7 computers in a room, and there were people all sitting around, and this wasn't even it was the production room, I guess. Mm-hmm. Very impressive kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of
as the guy who tries to do all that all by himself here, minus the clipping, because you know, as soon as this show's over, I'll go and I'll do all the tags. I'll do all those things you discussed. Then I'll create the commercials for tomorrow. You know, like the ones you saw. I tell you, it's a lot of work. I look forward to the day I can hopefully have a staff.
Dude, so all of the respect to you, brother. All of the respect to you, because it wasn't until I had done Talk Heathen for 1.5 years before I tried to do my own thing. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea just how difficult it was. And I remember I was in a live stream with Seth Andrews, Mr. Atheist, and a bunch of others. And we're all just shooting the shit. And I'm like, yeah, I can't figure out how to edit videos. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, and the audio's all fucked up. I don't know what to do. They're like, what? And oh, sorry if cussing is not.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Go ahead.
It's all messed up.
Hey, you know, Jen Aldrich has been on my channel, and those videos did not get demonetized. I don't know. So carry on. Yeah, okay. I know. I'm just as surprised as you are.
Yeah.
Love you, Jen. Love you, Jen.
So, anyway, yeah, I'm kind of asking, like, how do I do some of these basic things? And they're like, how are you here?
And not know these things.
Yeah, are you here?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a spoiled brat. Let's see, my very first episode, it was in a full studio with an audio engineer, live production, call screener, live studio audience, the whole shebang. And just looking at the amount of work, Chris, that you're putting in to build it up from the ground is admirable.
It's been a lot of work. Well, you know, I have to say, if I may, I do my part. I make the thing, I do my best to make it look pretty, and I try to get the guests and stuff like that. But there are people who help, who made it grow. If it weren't for, I always got to throw his name out there. Dave, Critical Cripple. He helped me in I don't see him anymore. He's off doing his own thing now. But he was right there in the beginning when it was just me alone and scared in the dark. Him, Math Pig. I don't see him anymore, but man, he was here. And then we get to the ones who, I mean, like Paul Camish. Paul Camish and Kristen, best name ever. I'm going to actually give them like, it means nothing, right? It means nothing, but it means something to me. I'm going to give them the little production, or what do you call it? Producer credits, because they do so much for my show. They're both patrons. And then they both, matter of fact, it was Paul that got you on the show. Helped me get you on the show, Eric.
Was it Paul? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was Paul this past week. And the first time it was Kristen.
Yeah, first time it was Kristen. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? These people have just been so helpful. Somebody said in the chat earlier about the community. You mentioned in the community. I can't go on enough about the community. They have been so wonderful to the show. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those folks.
Agreed.
Well, I would be, maybe, but it'd be really, really small. You know, it'd be tiny, tiny. And then I got to go on. I got to go that one step further, because we have these levels of, forgive me for saying it, levels of celebrity within the atheist community. We've already discussed it. You know, it's not, let's not pretend it's not there. So we've got this level of, and despite me being, pardon the expression, everybody pardon me, except for me way down here, I'm nobody. I'm a dude who 5 months ago went, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Way down here. These wonderful people have agreed to be on my channel. Richard Carrier, Aaron Raw, V. Eric Murphy, V. Bianca, all these wonderful people. Seth Andrews has been on my show. All these wonderful people from way up here have been on my show. And that's just a testament to how awesome this community is.
Okay. You know? Can you help me call Chris on that, please?
Call me.
So he's at over 1,000 subscribers. I'm seeing people donate in the live chat. And he's saying he's way down.
Well, yeah. He's acting like he's the Carrot Top of atheism. I think it's a little bit better than that.
Hey, don't say that, it'll stick. But see, that's the whole deal. Today I am. Thank you, Eric. You're wonderful. I appreciate your kind words. Today I am here. But I wasn't here. I wasn't monetizing and getting money in the chat when those wonderful people agreed to be on my show. I was just some guy who showed up in their text message going, hey, can you be on my, or Kristen prodding them into being on my show, you know? So I just got to say, the community has been amazing, has been absolutely. Now, the first time I dipped my head in the community about a little over a year and a half ago, I bumped into the wrong crowd and the wrong situation. And I went away from it going, oh my God, these atheists.
That's toxic. Yeah, there is a toxic side to things, man.
Yes, and it's exactly, you and I know what toxic side I'm talking about, that upon I which stumbled. I was lucky that I missed that this time. When I ducked my head back into it, I got picked up. I was on Neil. Neil was one of the, showed up on his channel saying hi to him, and just Kristen, Neil have just been wonderful.
See, and that's the interesting thing about, you know, building platforms is, so long as we have these platforms, we are building this community actively. And since we are building it, and it's still fresh, it's still new, that we have that opportunity to create the culture. You don't need to be subject to, you know, that culture that is just full of toxicity. No, we can build this culture together. We can build this community together and go, hey, you know, maybe X person is, you know, really, really popular, but dang, they're toxic. You know, making that decision is admirable. And I know that you know what I'm talking about, Chris. It's making those tough choices. Who's going to be on? Who's going to be going there? And the more we make those hard choices, the better it's going to be. This is not, but we're not trying to make a clubhouse. We're not trying to make this exclusive. We want this as open and available to everyone as possible. And we want to keep out the hurt and the mean-spirited, you know, ness of things. And so the more we do that, the better it gets.
The toxicity, as you called it. Yeah. Because, you know, I mean, the atheist community is powerfully accepting community. It seems like atheists, if you know, we've got the atheists, the LGBTQ, all these things, and you know, you can pretty much depend on atheists or humanists, because we walk the same line often, to stand up for all these other people who need somebody to stand up for them. So I think that's the wonderful thing about the community that we fall in. And aside again from that toxicity that you mentioned, and it's not always like that. It's just moments of that, if you ask me. You know, and actually, I learned, you know, occasionally you have people on your show, and I have somebody on my show, and I watch all the best people, all my favorite people in the chat who make it worth doing. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to watch if you have those people. We're not being a douche. I just got better things to do than watch that jerk be on your show. It only takes 1 or 2 episodes or experiences like that where you're going, man, really? I get you. I understand now. You know?
Yeah.
Or then to get drug into it, to accidentally say something and get yourself drug into that toxicity.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. So I guarantee you this clip is going to make its way around, and there's going to be at least a dozen people watching it going, Eric's talking about me.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you that is just a thing that's going to happen. As soon as this conversation went in this direction, I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, see, it's just kind of, I figured you people on that side of the fence, for lack of a better term, didn't really get involved in all that. You know,
it doesn't matter.
You get drug into it anyway, huh?
Yeah. The thing is you can control yourself and what you do.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to inside baseball and that kind of stuff, I just stay out of it. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to waste time on it, and I'm not going to platform it. I'm going to do what I think is best, and I'm going to focus my time and efforts on that. And that's it.
Yeah.
That said, I can't control other people, and other people can try and pick fights and do whatever the heck they want.
Right.
The best I can do is try and stay consistent in being on message. Hey, here's what I'm here for. Here's where we're going. If you want to come with me, awesome. Yeah. But yeah, if you go back to 2015, it was a different story. It was a different story, and there was a lot more toxicity.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I really want to avoid that, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to argue with other atheists about atheism. That's not my, I got no time for that. You know, I'll tell you, I don't know if you know this or not. Last year, a woman killed her own children because of the voices of God that she heard in her head. You know, there was a couple who starved their own child to death because of X, Y, and Z. There was another couple who, because of X, Y, and Z related to their faith. There was another couple who denied their child proper medicine and decided to go with essential oils and herbs and prayer. These are the people that I'm here for. I'm not here to argue about what's an atheist, I don't give a damn. There are people out there killing children in the name of their faith, and I would rather discuss those things if I'm going to sit around arguing with something.
Good. That's good.
That's the hat I wear. Yeah.
Good.
So
Keep on message, keep on point, keep your eye on the movement, and we're going to keep moving forward.
that's right. Keep it going. Well, you know, guys, it has been an hour. I'm going to thank you. You guys are wonderful. I know it just flew by. Yeah. I mean, I want to, if you don't mind, I tried this yesterday. I'm working on a new thing. Sometimes we go quite over. But I'm working on developing a break, and I have been working on a commercial. Andy Hall, are you guys familiar with Andy Hall from?
Yeah.
Okay, you're familiar with Andy Hall. He's Eric. In case you're not familiar with Andy, he's a writer over at Pathos, a comedian and a blogger, and he's created a commercial. Now I'm gonna run the commercial for the first time on the show. I tried to do it yesterday. It was a technical nightmare. Remember, there's only one of us here. It did not function. It did not work. Today it's going to work. So I'm going to run it, and then after that, I'll close out the show. Okay. So it's a commercial for atheism. Cool. Off we go.
Life is complicated. These are trying times. There are many questions that need answering. Want to know what's going to help? Atheism. With atheism, you'll get rid of dogma, superstitions, and toxic thought patterns that are holding you back. You can drive while taking atheism, as well as use heavy machinery. In fact, drinking alcohol, fornicating, and Sunday mornings are far more enjoyable with atheism. However, there are side effects. Some evangelicals and fundamentalists will think you are possessed by the devil. But you don't have to worry, because you know the devil isn't real. Just like God. Wake up to your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in science. Atheism.
It's a good thing to talk about.
That's true. Well, and we're back from our commercial. All right, so you know, you're right. Real quick, while we were at commercial, he mentioned that, you know, we were talking about the Christian mothers or people who do harmful things in the name of faith, such as killing their children or whatever. And we also have a similar thing in atheism where we've kind of got a bad group. But you know what? In atheism, our bad group aren't killing their own children. They're just douchebags. They're just douchebags.
That's true.
That's all it is.
That's true.
You know, have you ever? Now, you may not have experienced this, Eric. You probably have now. By this time, have you ever experienced it where you're sitting there, you're running your show and your production, and probably somewhere in the chat there's some guy going, "Fight me, debate me, argue with me," and you're like, you're just a troll in the chat. Some Christian guy going out there, "I know the Bible better than you. Yeah. Right here it says Jesus is Lord. That must mean it's true." And he's trying to argue, and he's swinging at you in the chat, and you're just like holding your hand out, and you don't care, right? You just don't give a shit. You know what's embarrassing is to see an atheist media content creator like us do that to another atheist content creator. Somebody who's sitting there not doing anything, not minding moments, and just swinging, trying to debate me, fight me. I'm like, it's embarrassing. You need to just stop. Yeah. I stopped all the follows when that shit started. You know, I was like, just no. Matter of fact, I had a show with a certain group of individuals, and then shortly thereafter, Eric showed up on my show, and he's like, just, you know, if you can in your life, in your YouTube life, if you can, try to avoid some toxicity. Words of wisdom. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. Thank you, Eric Murphy, one of the co-hosts from Talk Heathen. Thank you for showing up. And our law nerd.
Oh, yeah.
Kenneth Leonard, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you again on Ethan's channel. And everybody will see Eric on Talk Heathen this Sunday.
And youtube.com/Eric D. Murphy.
That's right. We've got Eric is out there. So go watch him do lunch, do YouTube, Eric, watch him on YouTube. So Eric is just all over the place. So thank you guys for joining us and have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Bye.